you want to do that, you can also give something called as wildcards. Even wildcards are supported, but I'll just go ahead and get the path again. Just out. Wildcards are supported, but if you want to give the full path, you can also go ahead and give that particular full path out there. That is the very first thing that I select. Is what is the name of the pipeline? Very importantly, what is the agent that I want? Specification of the agent, whether it is Windows, Macintosh, or Linux. Project to, let's say, restore. And then if you have some test cases, meaning now I'm telling as a tester, you'll also give me some test cases. I can put all the test cases here and run a command called .NET test. I can do that. So for example, if I just go here, I'll say .NET test. It'll look for a file called a test and it'll try to, let's say, go ahead do some kind of a test cases out here. It'll say now it's just doing a restore because there are no test cases out there. There are nothing, no testing files out there. So I'll leave it the way it is. I'm okay with this. And I'll just come here. It's again telling this is the source. Are you okay? I'll say yes, I'm okay. Then it's telling something called as the agent job. Everything that the agent needs to do. The agent here is nothing but whom? The virtual machine. And what does the virtual machine need to do? Restore, build, publish. That's exactly what it is doing. It's running a command called what? .NET restore on a project called what? CS project file out here. Then it's doing what? .NET build on a project called what? .cs project. Testing. If you have any test cases, you can do test or do a right click and remove this out. Since I do not have any test files out here. Then finally you have what? .NET publish. And finally, I have a publish artifact task out here. Let's understand this. And when you come to publish, uncheck this option and select your CS project file that you want to publish out here. Otherwise, this task will fail. So uncheck this out, select the CS project file that you want. And also there is something called as arguments in the form of build configuration, build.artifact staging directory. We'll talk about that. But let's do one thing. Let's select this and let's say save and queue. So all I did is created a pipeline, told that it is ASP.NET, selected the agent, and I'll now say first run and I'll say save and run. So now it's telling manually run for someone called classes Azure Devops. And now if you go in here, it is now telling the pool that you requested for, which is nothing but an agent pool, is called Azure Pipelines. Image is what? Windows latest. Saying okay, fine. Since you requested for this one, I will go ahead give you the same thing out here. This is the name of the virtual machine, which is WinTI8, something like this. My question for everyone is that if I copy this name and go into my Azure portal, will I be able to find a virtual machine with this particular name? Or should I be able to find a virtual machine with this particular name? Yes? No? Any questions? Any answer? Any thoughts there? Getting my question? I will copy this name of the machine and I want to, let's say, go into my portal, look for this machine and log inside this machine. Can I do that? It's Microsoft hosted, but let's try that out. Let's go there. Let's copy this out. Let's go into my Azure portal. This is virtual machine blade. I'll go here. This is the only VM that I actually have. Nothing. This is not my VM. This is something that I'm renting out, or this is something that I'm just going ahead and requesting Microsoft out. And in order to for you to go ahead and request this out, you need to have something called parallelism enabled. That's what we did in the very first day. We sent out a request, filled up a form for Microsoft telling please enable parallelism out here, and this is the reason why we did this. You will get sorry. Yes, 2 to 3 working days, correct. This is the reason why we did that, to enable something known as parallelism, and for Microsoft to give you this one when you request it. If you don't do that, Microsoft will simply say, you know what, there is no parallelism for your let's say Azure subscription. So I'm sorry, I cannot give you. Again, in order to check whether the request is satisfied or not, click on the settings here. You have a gear icon. This is called project settings. In the project settings, just scroll down. There is something called parallel jobs. Just go here, and once you're in here, there is something called Microsoft hosted and self hosted out here. And here it is telling you one parallel job up to what, 1800 minutes per a month. This would be around, if you divide this by 60, around 30 hours. 30 hours of let's say runtime that you get, and it's telling 42 minutes are consumed out of that particular 1800 minutes out here, which means every time I run a pipeline using this particular agent, I consume around, let's say this pipeline ran for 23 seconds. I consumed around 23 seconds, which means if I run this 3 times, I'll consume 1 minute out here. That 1 minute will be deducted from this particular limitation that they give you out there. So that's the reason we went ahead and gave something called as, please go ahead and give me something called as what, a parallel job out here as such. Yes, any questions still here that I can take? Sorry. Mm, mm. Firstly, it depends upon where it is failing. If the code is failing at build, there can be multiple things. Like for example, the .NET SDK is not getting supported. Meaning you are, let's say, having a .NET project called 2. You're trying to build the .NET project with something called 6 compatibility issues. You as a DevOps engineer need to go inside the agent. If it's a self-hosted, install the required kind of, let's say, SDKs that you need. That is one issue that I can tell you. If it is failing at test, meaning the code quality is not good, so you will have to tell the development team that, you know what, there are issues with your code, please fix it and recommit it back again. So it really depends upon which phase the code is actually failing. Depending upon that, you can either go ahead and work with your team or with the development team to fix the same thing. Is any more questions here? Mhm. It will take the configuration of this OS, but what I'll do is that I will build the code using Windows Server 2022, test the code using Windows Server 2022. The thing here, what I'm trying to tell you is that this machine and the machine on which you test the code are not different, right? Because here there was one more step called test. I'm running the test. I'm running the test on the same machine. If I do it on the local, I am building this on one machine, testing it on a tester's machine out here. That's where your configuration issue comes into picture. Even though now it takes the flavor of the machine, flavor of the OS, I'm okay, because if I test on the same operating system, it will give me a right result. I will also use the same machine to release the code. Everything on a single configuration out there. Configuration management or configuration maintenance. Build, test, deploy on the same kind of a configuration to make sure that your code works best. Yes, any more questions here? So let's look at this. The pipeline run, it took around 23 seconds for the pipeline to run. It's doing an initialize job very firstly, and initialize job will do one thing. It will go get the agent. He'll tell, okay, fine, this is the agent name, current version, operating system is Windows Server 2022, image is something called Server 2022, and also if you look at it, there is something called as installed softwares, meaning this machine will already come with a lot of installed softwares. And if you click on this one, it will take you to a GitHub page where it is telling you that enabled software is Windows subsystem for Linux. I have Bash, Go, Node, .NET, all these things installed. .NET by default comes installed out here if it's a Windows machine. Package managers, I had something called NuGet package manager, chocolatey, and I have a lot of things out here. It's telling project manager tools like 7-zip, Azure Bicep, ARM templates, Docker, everything is now installed. You don't have to do any, let's say, installation out here. Also, it comes with Azure CLI installed, AWS Session Manager installed, and etc. And you have multiple softwares like Google Chrome, Edge, Selenium drivers. You have all these things installed and etc. You have Java. You have all these things that are installed out here. You have Postgres, Mongo. You have tons and tons of them installed, and also you have what Visual Studio 2022 also installed on this particular machine, and it's telling all these are the package managers out here. Did I install all these things? No. Microsoft already had these machines in the background. It's just giving you the machine. Sorry, it's just giving you the machine so that you can go ahead and start, let's say, doing a build. Now, one thing is that I want to ask you all is that, see, if you look at your local machine, you have the SDKs, the operating system, the code, all in the same machine. I have the code in my D drive or something like that. But when I go for a agent, which Azure is giving me, does the agent has the code already? Yes, no. How will it have the code already? The code is in your GitHub repository. I'm sorry. It's fetching the code from exactly. It's fetching the code. Where is it fetching the code? In the next step called checkout Android, which is your repository, at the rate what the developer branch to a folder called S in that particular machine. This is called as the sources folder. So if you look at it, it is telling okay fine, I will go into that particular Git repository. I have Git installed on this particular machine. I'll do multiple commands called, let's say, git clone, git pull, and all that stuff. And it's telling switch, and now it's telling this is done, and it's finishing the checkout. So it's making, or it's cloning this entire branch. It's making this as a local branch in the Git repository that you have out here on that machine. Then it's running something called as restore. The same thing that you saw on my local machine out here. Restore, welcome to .NET 6 and all that stuff. Same thing is happening on that particular machine, which means that on this machine you're running a very simple command. For example, if you see, this is the command that you're running. .NET.exe is, let's say, installed. You're doing what? Restore on what? CS project file. Doing a build. For example, if you see this .NET build on that particular CS project, publish. It's running a command called .NET publish onto that particular CS project file out here. Now you have the publish, you have everything, it's all done. Your code is converted. Now your code is converted into artifacts or DLLs or binaries or whatever it is. Now where are those binaries? Where are those artifacts? On the hosted agent. Then if I want them, should I have to log into that machine, download that one? Yes. No. See, the end product of a build pipeline, meaning the end result of a build pipeline is itself the artifact. I am using this agent to get me the artifact out here. What Microsoft does is that at the end of a pipeline, execution, it'll just destroy this machine. Meaning you cannot log into the machine, you cannot download the code into the machine. Also, if you do a rebuild, you won't have the previous code there. It'll be a clean build out there for you. My question then is that, should this pipeline not give us the artifacts at the end? It should. That's the reason you have one final task called publish artifacts, which wherein I'm telling that go into a folder called a folder of the agent, wherein artifacts are all stored, and publish it on the pipeline. This is what the task does. Just goes ahead and before destroying your agent, goes into that a folder, copies everything, and publishes that on the pipeline, so that if you just click on the back arrow, here you have what? One published artifact. Click on this one. You have a .zip file. Just download this out. You will now have a .zip file out here. This is your converted artifacts. So if I just go inside this one and just extract this out, getting everything. Same thing what I did on my local machine, but now all this is something that I'm now replicating on what? That particular Azure hosted agent. And that's the reason if you look at my steps out here in my pipeline, I'll click on these three dots. I'll say edit pipeline. I have what? Restore, build, publish. Three common steps. But one more step called what? Publish artifacts, so that it will go inside that particular machine, get all my artifacts and publish it to what? Azure pipelines, let's say space out there, so that you can go ahead and download this out. And this is something that we can later use in a combination with a release pipeline to release it out. Is any questions still here? Anyone, any questions still here that I can take? Testing again can be done in two different stages. If you do this in, let's say, build stage, it's called as a unit testing, meaning you are just testing the quality of your code. If you are doing it on the release stage, it's called as a functional test. This is done or this is achieved by using tools like Selenium, APM, JMeter, and all these things out. So you can do both of them. We'll also do both of them. I'll also show you how to do both of them out there. So you do testing at both the stages, and this is a testing oriented development, meaning as and when I build the code, before I publish it, I'll test it out. That's the reason you had a test task there. Because if the test fails, I don't want you to give, or I don't want the build pipeline to give you an artifact at all. If it won't give you an artifact, you won't release it. So you will address your issue here only. Exactly. Test cases, not they won't give you the test cases directly. They will commit their test cases onto that branch. You will just simply go ahead, add a test case out there and point it out to a project called test.cs project, something, test cs project, something like that. That's how you CS project. You have the same thing for test CS projects out there. Yes. Same link can give the test particular path out there. I'll include the test cases also in this project.
There is
So
no
yes,
charges for virtual machine.
there is no charges for the virtual machine. No, there are no charges for the virtual machine because it's a SaaS service. This is included in your basic license. You'll have to request for it. It's included in the basic license.
Even in organization level also.
For an organization, we won't go for a hosted agent at all. We will go for something called self-hosted agent out there. We'll also talk about why do we go for a self-hosted agent as such.
Why it's finally crashed that virtual machine?
I'm sorry.
You said after the completion of this pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
virtual machine will go on trash, right?
Can you come again, please?
After completion of this pipeline,
Okay.
you said a virtual machine will become a close, right? Shutdown. You said like
Correct. Correct.
why it's happened?
Correct. Because this is not your machine. This is not really your machine. This is like Azure provided machine out here. Very simple. Just imagine you booked a bike on Rapido. They dropped you somewhere. That job is done. Would they give you the bike? No. Very simple.
No.
Same way,
Okay.
very simple. Same thing happens to your hosted agent as well.
Hi, Kiran, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
So, can you tell us more about the next steps that we have to follow? Like, when do we have to prepare the resumes and all that stuff?
A resume you can start preparing right now. So we are into
Okay.
DevOps. It will take me another 15 to 18 classes to complete DevOps completely. So you can start preparing your resumes. You can take sample resumes and you can send it to me across once you are done with the preparation so that I can suggest you the changes and you can start rolling it out. Because once you roll out, it will take some time for the call to get scheduled and for you to, let's say, land in the job. But by that time,
Yes.
we'll be able to cover the courses out there. So it can happen parallelly right now.
So actually, I am from a non-IT background, and I don't have any experience
Okay.
in DevOps. So,
Okay.
what exactly have I have to write in the resume?
So just have a word with, let's say, the front office for that specific, let's say, detail. They will
Okay.
help you in that particular resume building out there.
Okay, sure.
Real-time scenario code will be provided. Yes, real-time scenario code will be provided. Why agent is being destroyed? I think I've explained that. It's because we are not, let's say, the owners of that particular agent. It's Azure who's, let's say, controlling this out. Yes, any more questions out here? Anyone? Any questions still here? Which is sorry? Yes. It depends upon what you're trying to build. For example, if you're building a code called Python, you cannot use Windows to build Python. You need a Linux architecture. If you're building something like Ruby, there's Ruby languages, different languages out here. So you cannot build Ruby with Windows. It's just not compatible. You need somewhere like Linux agent for that. Let's say you are an iOS developer. You are creating a code of iOS. iOS code is best built, tested on a Mac OS. That's the reason you'll go for Mac. So it depends upon what kind of a coding stack that you're working on. And let's say if you go for advanced things like Dockers, Kubernetes, and etc., they best run on Linux. So that's the reason you select Linux out there. Ubuntu or Debian or Fedora, Cent, all these things. I'm sorry. You need to have a little bit of Linux knowledge, which we will cover out here. When we do Dockers, we will understand what is Linux and Linux architecture on a basic level. We'll do some Linux basics there. Is there any more questions, guys? Uh, so just if you want to read about it, just say git clone, git merge, git pull request, git pull, git sync. Do understand between the difference between git pull and git fetch, and understand what is git stash. These are the two additional commands that I would say. Just check that out and it should be good enough. These are the commands. Like out of this one, there will be one of the commands basically that they ask. The most famous question if someone wants to ask is what do you mean by git, or what do you see the difference between git pull and git, let's say, stash, or cherry pick. Yes, cherry pick is, that's something there. Cherry pick fork and all, that's something there, which we'll talk about it. Like we'll cover, just remind me, I'll cover cherry pick as well.
Hello.
Then we have
I
Go ahead,
the
please.
document for this. We have a document for this. What are the function we have performed now pipeline? We have any
uh,
document
mhm.
for
What are, sorry, can you come again, please?
this? No, we have performed this pipeline, right? We have the steps, right? Can we have the Microsoft document for this?
Yes, you can have the Microsoft documentation for that. Just go to docs.microsoft.com and just go into, let's say, Azure DevOps product. Here you have things like what is a pipeline, what is a repository, what is git based, etc. You can just click on this one and this will start telling you what is pipeline, what are the application types supported, how can you do, and all that stuff.
Thank you.
Hi, Kiran. Hi.
Pavan, I'm a little out of time right now. I'm little, let's say, over the time. Can I address your question in a minute? If it is yes, then I can take that.
Okay.
Okay. By any chance, is this weekend possible to take monitor class? I will try, but I cannot commit. I have some, let's say, things to do on a Saturday and Sunday. If it is not possible, I'll take it in the next weekend monitoring class. Okay. Sorry, application insights. Correct. All right. Thank you, guys, and have a good day ahead. Thank you.